at the most basic principle, we're in this polar work where everything is molecules of light, vibrating at different frequencies, giving the appearance of density that adhere to laws and properties of chemistry and physics. And as we move up that scale, and having learned this from grandparents who were farmers and the father who was a chemist and a doctor, the most you can control of any of this stuff is within your own body, and understanding yourself. And to educate yourself about that is one of the greatest steps that you can do. And outside of that, the relationships that we form with each other. Sacred relationships. Either all life is sacred or none of it is, including your own. And at that point of realization, I want to read this piece. And I'll also leave this piece that has a website on it. It has some very interesting information. It was handed to me by somebody last night who was at the gathering that's not here today. And I guess this was her way of being here today. It says that ascension does not imply that either personal struggle or planetary chaos will be over when it comes. It is not salvation in that sense. But you raise your vibration and you can solve the problems that are still there in a different way. And especially it says, the chaos you draw into your experience, the battles you fight, the struggles you encounter as warriors of light within duality, are truly with yourself. And when you know and start there, you make peace with that and know everybody else is going through the same thing. And it's another thing Bucky used to say was that everybody is doing the best they can with what they know. The problem is, and my addition to that is, most people intuitively know there's things going on out here that they don't want to know about. In other words, oh, well, if it's a military element, the CIA must be protecting our interest. I don't want to know the dirty, dark secrets they're doing. But you know, there's a place of responsibility. And so I appreciated the things you shared earlier. Conspiracies abound, but you can't give up your own power or energy to that, or become aware of what's going on and be unafraid to talk about it at the right way. But the true element is, this has always been the case on the earth. And individual souls can live a life of integrity even in a corrupt system. And this is where I'll begin with a brief overview on the political economy in the earth. Now, a few weeks ago, a woman was here named Barbara Hand-Clow, and she did a workshop at the studio. She's written a book called Catastrophobia. And she says that all these catastrophes we're afraid of are in our genetic makeup because we've already experienced them. And in the four worlds John talked about, I put this, consider this mythology, if you will, but it's a common mythology. The first world was Gaia, where the earth was all together in one landmass. And the Gaia hypothesis is that we are all one brain cell in a giant earth brain, each one of us. And in our own integrity, finding our own way with that. And just like we have a right and left hemisphere of the brain, the earth has a Mediterranean brain and an Occidental brain, India and China. And they play off each other in certain ways. Now, the second world was the Lemuria Foundation. And all that that implies, living with nature, more dominance of the feminine principle than the masculine. But earth changes come up on them. Climate changed, it was cold, and they didn't know what to do with it, and froze out much of the way. The third world in Atlantean form was highly male, technological, had its stuff. And all of these apply to what's called the law of one. Now, even the law of one has a polar principle to it. The law of one to some people means we're all one, we're all connected. The law of one on the other side of that is, it's all about me. And this is the foundation. So even in the sense you think there's a spiritual principle called the law of one, there's a different take on it all the way around. So you respect all the human differences. And I like to say that all mutually exclusive realities are simultaneously real and true. So we don't get any arguments over some of these things. You just honor the mystery that makes even an opposing belief true. This is Water Lily, by the way, and the reason she knows about water is this is her specialty. And we are water bodies living on a water planet. And I mentioned to John today something about, at the cellular level, microtubules exist in all living things that hold valence-free pure water, no electric charge and no minerals. And inside of every cell of every living creature are these elements. And they help us intercellular communicate and interspecies communicate. And it holds a holographic picture of what you want to communicate in that water. And so when John mentioned the holographic universe, this is, in a sense, evolution. If you think of the times of Newtonian physics, they describe the universe in mechanical terms. It's a giant machine. 100 years later, it was systems theory created by Alfred North Whitehead, the idea that, no, the universe is a living organism, and it's layered in systems, just like we have 9 different body systems that function as in one body. And there are 9 different planetary bodies that make up a solar system. And the solar system itself is, in a galactic system of the Milky Way. And then there are that many more galaxies on each of these layers. And if you consider this, we have our personal body we're relating with right now. It is attached to an Earth body, to a solar body, to a galactic body, to a universal body. When you, in meditation, practice going through that black hole at the center of the galaxy, it comes out into a white hole that's the opening door to the universe. You cannot get through that doorway with anything except your genetic history of the race that is inside of each of our DNAs, your personal memory of your own soul's journey, and the love that you carry. Nothing else is allowed out of this particular dimensional reality. And your consciousness can move through it along with your love at that time. Now, I'll come back to the challenge that we face right now. Arnold Toynbee, the great historian of the world, claimed that the definition of civilization is not a technological one, but it's a spiritual one. And it comes because the earth is tilted. And because of that tilt, it requires you to store up a surplus to get through a winter. And a civilized society would share that surplus with the most people possible. Just because we have a technological civilization doesn't mean we've shared the surplus. We've had more ability to grow more food in the last 50 years, even with low quality petroleum-based agriculture, and we still haven't shared it with the world. So again, the definition of civilized isn't tied to your technology. Technology itself is not the hardware that we're used to. Technology is the process by which we solve problems, ancient problems, to survive. But with human skills, creating new tools require new skills, that require new tools, that require new skills, that require new tools, and it speeds up along the way. And this is the acceleration we have come to have all this knowledge, but no wisdom. And so in an economy that is based on wisdom, rather than getting rich and selling the idea, everybody get rich, even if only 1 out of 1,000,000 of you do, selling that idea and believing it, the belief systems we agree with keep us impoverished. And so most of the time, even the very wealthy people are so busy, they don't have the time to pursue their other interests and enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm saying there is the opportunity to imagine an economy on the earth that is based on the pursuit of knowledge which will turn to wisdom. And Gandhi said it best when he said that the earth provides enough for everyone's need, not everyone's greed. And if the global system you hold up as a model is based on greed, which is what the global economy that is now crashing was based on, it is an idea of constantly expanding economy based on non-renewable resources. There's a stop in there somewhere, and we're about to reach that point. Now, you can see that coming. I've seen it for 30 years, and I've tried to talk about it. As long as we were in that abundance, people looked at me and said, "You're just being negative." And so it liberated me to pursue a different path of knowledge and experience, and with lots of free time to just absorb travel and teachers and stuff along the way.